الصلاة والسلام عليك يا
Sheikh, Imran, Brother Mahmoud, or Hafiz Mahmoud, brothers and sisters, students, sons and daughters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There is a colorful advertisement there facing you. Painting, it says amongst other things, together we can save the earth, indicating that the earth is in danger. Together we can save the earth. I congratulate you on your perceptiveness, so you're reading the world correctly. My topic is the Muslim village and the return to Fitrah. And thankfully I have only 25 minutes. Yes, we live in an age in which there is universal fasad. There is fasad in the political life, fasad in the economy, fasad in the monetary system. We just had a conference here in Malaysia last week on riba. And there were scholars coming from so many parts of the world who shared our views on the facade of the monetary system. There was Hugo Salinas Price from Mexico, came all the way from Mexico. There is facade in the food production, food that we eat, water that we drink. There is fasad in the male-female relationship, fasad in the sexual life, fasad most of all in the corruption of the inner sight, the capacity to see with the internal eye. What is fasad? It's there in the Quran. It is to corrupt, and to corrupt in such a way that can destroy. And that's why you have that slogan there, together we can save the earth, for the earth is dying. And because we perceive that this is not happening by accident. No, it's not happening by accident. If you believe that all the corruption in the world today is by accident, you should buy a one-way ticket to the moon. No, it's not happening by accident. It's happening by design. But you've got to study ilmu akhir zaman, Islamic eschatology, to understand that unfortunately the subject is not being taught. Unfortunately. In Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran, and for some strange reason here in Malaysia, you say Surah Al-Kahfi. Allah speaks about the young men and the cave who fled from a world which had turned away from Allah, like today's world. وَإِذِ اعْتَزَلْتُمُوهُمْ فَأَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَإِذِ اعْتَزَلْتُمُوهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهَ فَأْوُوا إِلَى الْكَهْفِ. And so they fled from that world. They withdrew from the world. It was like a ship which was sinking, and no one could prevent it from sinking. Those who saw with only one eye could not perceive that the ship was sinking, and so they remained on board. Some of them partying until morning time, others involved in very splendid da'wah, but the ship was sinking. But those who had eyes and could see, not like Dajjal who sees with only one eye, they could see that the ship was sinking. Oh yes. And they did what the young men did. They got off the ship. The Muslim village in the remote countryside is an attempt to withdraw from an earth which is dying, from a way of life which is becoming increasingly corrupt and godless. And if the countryside could preserve truth, preserve virtue, preserve a way of life which was stable and healthy, then one day the countryside could come back out and take the city. Mao Zedong did it in China. Fidel Castro did it in Cuba. Che Guevara was attempting to do it in Latin America. And Surah Al-Kahf took the young men to the cave. Perhaps they were in transit, but Allah put them to sleep. And so our project of a Muslim village is meant to make an effort to return to the way of life ordained by Allah. What is that way of life? But before I continue, alhamdulillah, my students in Egypt were planning and are building a village in Egypt. In Malaysia, we have 2 Muslim village projects already. We have some of them present here tonight. In Pakistan, they are searching for the land. But agricultural land is too expensive in Pakistan, so they've not gotten the land yet. In Ivory Coast, they surprised me, and they've already bought the land in Ivory Coast. And they're on their way to build a village. And in South Africa, Cape Town, again, they're on their way. But there are so many requests from other parts of the world. And I say to them, go to the remote countryside and look for a place where land is available, which is arable land, where you can plant food, where there is water, and build a village. There are those in Bangladesh who are listening to me as I speak tonight. They've asked me tonight, tell us what to do when there is oppression of the state. And my answer is, if building an independent Muslim village is not not possible because of state violence and state oppression. Then go to an existing village and integrate yourself into that village. Why do we want to withdraw from society as it is now unfolding in the world, the global society? The verse of the Quran is in Surah Al-Rum. And listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Fitrat Allah. How do we translate that? Is it Allah's fitra? Allah's nature? التي فطر الناس عليها. Shall we translate that as that the divine nature is the model after which human nature has been constituted? No, we can't do that. Because Allah says, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. Nothing, no one is like Allah. And so that translation would not work. Fitrat Allah, the nature which Allah has ordained for all His creation. التي فطر الناس عليها. He has created the human beings and ordained for them a fitra or nature which is in harmony with the universal fitra. There you are. Your subject is so apt and appropriate that human nature is constituted in a manner which is in harmony with the universal nature of all of creation. And at its reality, everything worships Allah. يُسَبِّحُ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Everything praises Allah, glorifies Allah. And so there is a spiritual interpretation to all things. And our life is meant to be lived in harmony with the environment around us. ذَلِكَ لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ. Before we go to that. لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ. How do we translate that? Some of the books of tafsir restrict themselves to say there is no change in human nature, but that is insufficient. Allah is saying that the nature with which He has ordained all creation, that nature and human nature are in harmony with each other. التي فطر الناس عليها. And then He goes on to say, لا تبديل لخلق الله. There is no change in Allah's creation, both universally and in human nature. You can't restrict it to human nature. So if you're waiting for the sun to rise from the west, you've got a long way ahead of you. ذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمِ. This is the right religion, the right way of life. That we must live in harmony with the environment. And if we don't, we are turning away from our deen. ذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمِ وَلَكِنْ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And so when we see the world showing disrespect for the earth, it's time to say goodbye. When we see the earth and the people of the earth coming together in one global society and showing disrespect for food and disrespect for the land with which we produce the food, it's time to say goodbye. And when we see a global society showing disrespect for women and disrespect for the functional relationship between the male and the female, And the world increasingly turning towards the fulfillment of that prophecy of Akhirul Zaman, that men will dress like women and women will dress like men. Why would men dress like women? And why would women dress like men? We know the part about women dressing like men because they want to assume the functional role of men in society. But why would men dress like women? Is it that if something in the food that we eat, is it that you're planting hormone injections in the animals and our baby boys are growing up effeminate? When we see mankind turning away from fitrah in the male-female relationship, it's time to say goodbye. Because if you break the relationship between human fitrah and the fitrah around you, you live in disharmony with Allah's creation. You're heading for disaster. That ship is going to sink. And so we turn to the remote countryside and to small villages. And we make an effort to return to fitrah. And so we produce our own food. What's wrong with that? We don't want to eat the garbage from the supermarket. What's wrong with that? We want our babies, our children, to eat pure food. What's wrong with that? Did they not say after they had slept for 300 years, if you sleep for 300 years, you wake up, you're going to be hungry, won't you? So they said, فَبَعَثُوا أَحَدَكُمْ بِوَلِدِكُمْ هَذِهِ إِلَى الْمَدِينَةِ فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَيُّهَا أَزْكَىٰ طَعَامًا. Go search for that food which is purest, grown organically, not chemical fertilizer, which destroy the soil. So we go to the Muslim village to plant and produce our own food, pure food, while they're eating garbage. What's wrong with that? We want to ensure the water that we drink is pure water. What's wrong with that? But most of all, we want to ensure that we live as a society, that we allow it in. And so the male would be like the day, and the female like the night. Is that not what the Quran says? وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى. And then what did Allah say? وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى. That the same way I created the day and the night, so too did I create the male and the female. The day has its own functional role, and the night has her own functional role. So the male has his functional role and the female has her functional role in society. And we want our baby boys to grow up as men and our baby girls to grow up as women. Enchantingly feminine women. What's wrong with that? And so when you want to see society as it used to be lived once upon a time, but now disappearing in today's godless world, it is to the Muslim village you'll have to come. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, if he comes to our Muslim village, and if we are faithful to our effort to restore fitrah, we'll smile. One more thing before I end, because my time is up. Do you think that Allah created us with needs which cannot be fulfilled without buying and selling? I need a haircut. So I go to the barber, and when he cuts my hair, I offer him a copy of my book, Jerusalem in the Quran. He says, Sheikh, I'm not interested in your book. Barter has its limits. I need money. And when he takes that money from me, he can go to the market and buy some durian. So did Allah not create money? Or is it that I have to wait until the Zionist IMF creates bogus, fraudulent, utterly haram money and then use that money as an instrument of economic oppression and financial enslavement? No. Allah created money. And Nabi Muhammad ﷺ gave us that money. But who teaches that subject today? Who had taken the time to go to the Quran and go to the Hadith and then study international monetary economics? Who is taking the time to do that? Fitra is gone in money. There is fitra in money. But let me tell you something. As I just said it, on Sunday I recorded a lecture for broadcast on Egyptian television. Probably going to be broadcasted a day or two. And I warned the Egyptian people, tomorrow, yes, tomorrow, Israel is going to be using dinar and dirham as money, and at that time we will have to hold our faces down in shame and disgrace. Yes, because we have abandoned the Sunnah. And tomorrow they will restore gold and silver as money. But in the Muslim village, we will restore dinar and dirham as money. That's fitrah. And if there's a short supply of dirhams in the market in Medina, what would they use as money? Did they teach you that at school? Is it still being taught anymore? If there was a shortage of dinar and dirham in the market in Medina, what would they use as money? Answer, they would use dates as money. There are those who could look down their nose on that if they want. That's their business. But this is the Sunnah. That you use commodities of food consumption, wheat, barley, dates, salt. These are commodities of food consumption with a shelf life, not like mangoes. And they have their value inside of them, intrinsic value. So long as we use that money, we never had what we have today. Egypt, miserably poor. Indonesia, miserably poor. Pakistan, miserably poor. Bangladesh, miserably poor. Shall I continue? Did this happen by accident? Is it because the Indonesians are lazy and the Egyptians are lazy? Are you adding insult to injury? No. So we will use dinar and dirham in the remote countries. And if there is state violence against us, well, then we will use rice as money. Can you ban that? We'll use sugar as money. Can you ban that? No matter what you do, you cannot stamp out the religion of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There will always be those who are faithful to the deen, even if they have to go and live in a cave in the mountains. But they will preach the truth without regard for consequences. They will preach the truth without regard for consequences. And if you preach the truth, Allah will take it to the four corners of the world. But you must do it with sincerity. So I want to congratulate Hafiz Mahmoud Abu Taka and the group. There are many, he could not have done this by himself. All of you who have worked so hard to show respect for the environment, to show respect for food, to show respect for water. If you invite me to come again one day, I can introduce you to wudu and how much water is used in wudu. I can introduce you to ghusl and how much water is used in ghusl. What is the way that we show respect for food? How do we show respect for water? You will teach your children. Every single grain of rice on that plate must be finished. You will not leave a single grain of rice on this plate, my son. So next time watch how much food you're putting on your plate. We will show respect for the environment. Respect for food, respect for water, respect for the land, the soil in which we produce the food. Respect for the market, for the money we use in the market. And respect for men as men and women as women. And if we do that, life can once again be happy and beautiful. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا رب.